In accordance with the new copyright regulations, this episode of Quoth the Raven is intended for ages 16 and up. While some of the content we will feature is kid-friendly, the context of the episode is addressed adults and inform them of said content within the research as consumers in service of their youth. In other words, parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, teachers, librarians, etc. There is a possibility of adult language present on the episode as well, rated TV 16 and up. Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. I'm your host, Lewis Bright Raven, 29-year veteran of comic, science fiction, fantasy, horror, and role-playing games as a writer, illustrator, and editor, talent scout, and studio manager. Yep, I know. I don't always keep my credentials the same every time. I've just been around for a long time. Today is Friday. That means we're doing our genre discussions. And it's a movie night. And it's going to be kind of a short one because usually when we do movies, we usually have my co-host, sometimes John Norris, with us, but he hadn't watched any of the movies I had, and I just wanted to get some of these things I'd seen out of the way. So we're going to talk about 3 movies tonight, and those movies are in order: Wonder Woman 1984, Replicas, and Final Voyage. Now, that's in the order I actually viewed them this past week. So let's go ahead and get to them. We'll start with Wonder Woman 1984, made in 2020, directed by Patty Jenkins, produced by Charles Roven, Deborah Snyder, Zack Snyder, Patty Jenkins, Gal Gadot, and Stephen Jones. Screenplay by Patty Jenkins, Jeff Johns, and Dave Callahan. From a story by Patty Jenkins and Jeff Johns, starring Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, Kristen Wiig, Pedro Pascal, Robin Wright, and Connie Nielsen, among others. Production company is DC's Films, Atlas Entertainment, and the Stone Quarry. Distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures. Released in theaters December 25th of last year. Runtime of 2 hours and 30 minutes. Rated PG-13. What it's about. Well, it starts out with a young Diana participating in an athletic event in Themyscira Island against older Amazons. After falling from her horse, she takes a shortcut and remounts her horse but misses a checkpoint. Antipode removes her from the competition as she's leading because she supposedly she cheated by taking the shortcut, and explaining that anything worthwhile must be obtained honestly. Personally, I don't see why she cheated, and I'll explain that in a minute. But this is the recurring theme of the film, and while it is sensibly presented, the reality is Antiope, or whatever, I can't pronounce her name, did not have to remove Diana from the competition to prove the point. She simply could and should have just been penalized for not hitting the checkpoint mark, which means she could have finished the competition, but she wouldn't have won the competition. By taking her out of the competition because she missed a checkpoint and took a shortcut because she couldn't get to the checkpoint, I don't know. I don't know. To me, it just didn't seem like she learned the lesson that was intended, and this played into later goings on in the movie. From this, we fast forward to 1984. Diana is now working at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., while secretly performing heroic deeds as Wonder Woman. New museum employee Barbara Ann Minerva, a shy geologist and cryptozoologist, is barely seen by her coworkers and basically comes to envy Diana for the fact that everybody notices her and she's attractive and blah, blah, blah. Later, the FBI asked the museum to identify some stolen antiquities for a robbery that Wonder Woman had recently foiled. That is the second scene I didn't talk about. There's a mall scene where Wonder Woman takes on some thieves that was, just dumb. But anyway, Barbara and Diana notice this one item in the antiquities, later identified as the Dreamstone. It contains a Latin inscription claiming to grant the holder one wish. Barbara wishes to become more like Diana and acquires the same superpowers as her eventually, while Diana unknowingly wishes for her deceased lover, Steve Trevor, to be alive, resurrecting him in another man's body, and these two are later reunited at a Smithsonian gala. I'm going to stop in a moment right there, partly because, one, I did not buy into the fact that she wished for him to be alive when I saw it. I guess that's what happened, but I didn't really buy into how that was portrayed. It just didn't ring true to me that she made that wish. The same way that the other characters in the rest of the movie, everybody else legitimately says, "I wish for this." I did not sense that. I don't remember her saying, "I wish Steve were alive," or anything like that. So I was a little bit off-putting for me there. Now, failing businessman Max Lorenzano tricks Barbara and steals the Dreamstone, hoping to use its power to save his bankrupt oil company. He wishes to become the stone and gain its wish-granting powers. Becoming a wealthy and powerful figure who will create chaos and destruction of his powers trigger worldwide instability. Now, honestly, there's a whole lot of stupidity going on in this movie. It's funny how Diana tries to keep her identity as Wonder Woman a secret, but since Barbara now obviously knows because she's got Diana's powers, why the hell doesn't she just tell the world that Diana was Wonder Woman? That was kind of annoying to me. That was one check mark that I said, nope, don't go with that. Again, I didn't buy into Diana's wishing that Steve Trevor were alive. In fact, she kind of reviles the Dreamstone once she realizes what it is. But then once her wish is realized and Steve is returned, or actually not, he's actually just some random guy that Steve's soul is now overlaid upon. Diana can only see Steve. What? A powerful Dreamstone? You couldn't resurrect the dead whole and bring him back? You had to put him in another man's body and make it creepy? Anyway, so now Diana is basically with this guy, and she knows it's not Steve, it's another guy, but she only sees Steve because she can only see the soul of Steve. And it's okay with her. That's not Diana, as far as I'm concerned. That, I think a lot of people who saw the movie had a problem with that. I have a problem with that. It just leads to all kinds of questionable decisions by Diana and her behavior and unwillingness to give Steve up throughout the movie, when she knows ultimately she has to in order to save the day. It really drags the film down. Not only is this so blatantly obvious as part of the plot, it's so bad that even the villains mock Diana over her unwillingness to do what must be done repeatedly throughout the film. And perhaps the most annoying scene is when Diana finally does renounce her wish. The only way to break the Dreamstone's effects, she tells Steve, "I'll never love again." Wait a minute. Wasn't love the whole damn point of her powers and her whole personality and everything in the first movie? I do believe it was. I do believe it was love and forgiveness and love for all of humanity that gave her the ability to beat Ares in the first movie. So she's never going to love again. Then what's the point of this whole thing? No. Bad writing, bad scene, just bleh. But moving on. Barbara, Diana, and Steve discovered that the Dreamstone was created by Dolos or Mechadinus, the god of mischief, also known as the Duke of Deception. It grants the user's wish while exacting a toll unless they renounce this wish or destroy the stone. So Diana's powers diminish because she made this wish to bring back Steve Trevor, which she really didn't, as far as I'm concerned. Barbara's humanity diminishes because she's not only become Wonder Woman, but then that's not enough. She wishes to become even more, and she loses her humanity as it goes. But because they're both unwilling to renounce their wishes. But they learn that the U.S. president has a satellite system that broadcasts signals globally. So Max uses his powers, which are causing his body to deteriorate. He plans to globally grant wishes to steal the strength and life force from everyone who watches and asks for wishes to regain his own health, which doesn't make any sense either. Diana and Steve confront him at the White House, but Barbara, now aligned with Max, defeats Diana, escaping with Max on the helicopter Marine One. Steve convinces Diana to renounce her wish and let him go, which restores her to her former strength and gaining an ability to fly. which this again is the scene where she claims she's never going to love again. I don't buy it. The flying scene in the film, I don't buy either, but we'll get to that in a minute. Donning the armor of Amazon warrior Asteria, Diana flies to the satellite headquarters and again battles Barbara, who is transformed now into the humanoid cheetah after wishing to become an apex predator. Following a brutal fight, sorry about that, Nighthawk. Good evening, John. No, sorry that he didn't, Anyway, he should know. I mean, no offense, Nighthawk, you should know I give spoilers, so to speak. I'm always talking about what movies or the films are about. But anyway, Diana tackles into her lake and electrocutes her and then pulls her out. Sorry about that. I'm reading and not on a different window at the moment. Anyway, Diana confronts Max with her lasso truth to communicate with the world through him and persuades everyone to renounce their wishes, and shows Max visions of his own unhappy childhood and his son Alistair, who is frantically searching for his father amid the chaos. This forces Max to renounce his wish, and he reunites with Alistair, and Barbara returns to normal. Sometime later, Diana meets the man whose body Steve possessed, and of course that man doesn't remember Diana. And everything's back to normal, and we go on our merry way. There's a scene with the so-called invisible jet. First, they steal a jet from the I don't know where they got the jet from. I guess it's the Smithsonian Airfield. I don't know, but if that's where it is, it's an airfield that's part of the Smithsonian. I would presume that those planes were non-operational. Number one, but if they're not, even if Steve is a pilot, he's been dead for 40 years. He's not going to understand modern technology of a jet compared to what he was flying in the 40s. So that I'm not buying into. And then there's the whole invisible thing. It's just bad. It's just so bad. I've been practicing Sue Storm's powers by way of Zeus. Yeah, give me a break. Give me a fucking break. She's literally just like shaping a ball of invisible energy in her hand, saying, well, I was doing this with a coffee cup and I made it disappear and I can't find it anymore. I learned this trick from my father, which first off, I was forgetting that she even had a father because I was forgetting the whole way they did it in the movies. But okay. But then when she figures it out, she just touches the jet and it turns invisible. And I'm just like, no, this is not right. But then it gets worse. Steve's flying this jet. It happens to be the 4th of July. Hey, there's some fireworks over there. Let me fly this jet through the field of fireworks. Now, how damn stupid can you possibly be? Fireworks are explosives. You don't fire. You don't fly a jet. You don't fly a plane through a field of fireworks. What, does her invisibility power give it immunity to fireworks now or something? No, just incredibly stupid scene. And the primary point of the scene is so that Steve can explain to her the whole point of how to fly so that she can learn how to fly later. Very bad. For 40 years, she couldn't figure out how to fly. I guess she just lassoed clouds and swung through the air on a lasso or something. Smarter way of writing it would have been when they had the antiquities brought in from the FBI. She found the wings of Hermes sandals or something in the antiquities and put them on her boots, kind of like what they did in the frickin' comics. That would have made sense of how, if you wanted to give her a new means of flying on her own, that would have made sense. Or, Asteria's armor has wings. You didn't really need to say, well, I can fly without them. It just, did not work for me at all. And then we get to the fight scene with Cheetah and Wonder Woman. And she's wearing Asteria's armor, which Asteria used to fight literally hundreds to thousands of normal men off so that the rest of the Amazons can escape the Themyscira, but she tears it in less than 3 minutes battle time. No, not buying that either. Then we get to the lasso of truth, where she's got Max entangled and it gets him to renounce his wish. And supposedly also gets everyone else in the world to renounce their wish too, supposedly. Here's the thing about that. If Max renounces his wish, then all the wishes he's ever granted as a living Dreamstone thereafter should be null and void, right? Which means nobody else needs to renounce their wish as far as I understand it, but it's never explained as such. 2, Alistair, Max's son, was forced by Max to wish to be like his dad earlier in the movie. We never see Alistair renounce his wish, which means, as far as I'm concerned, he's still got the living. He's got the same thing as Max, and he's a living embodiment of the Dreamstone living inside of him. Unless we go back to point 1, and that Max renounces his wish, all the wishes he granted to everybody don't count. Yeah, I know. This is headache-inducing. The movie is headache-inducing. Yeah. Now, let me just say this. Obviously, the story sucks. The cast did not. The cast was very good at what they did. With what they were given, everybody did an excellent job. I might say that Pedro Pascal as Maxwell Lord kind of reminded me too much of Nathan Fillion. I would have actually preferred Nathan Fillion in the role. I think Nathan would have done a better job at being more evil than Max. Max just seemed like the way Pedro portrayed him was more like a desperate loser type guy rather than evil. And Maxwell Lord is evil as far as I'm concerned. But okay. But I will say this. The movie Wonder Woman 84 does fit perfectly for this movie because this is exactly the kind of cheesy garbage I would have expected from a superhero movie in 1984. Problem is, it's now 2021 and we have higher expectations. And even if Jenkins and Johns were intentionally trying to make this an ironic homage to those cheesy 80s era movies, the story just doesn't hold up. This film is way below earning back its budget. It's $34 million shy, and that now, to be fair, that's probably because of COVID killing the theater audiences. But as bad as this has been, as bad as some of the other things that Johns has done with the films that he's been involved with as a producer or as a writer, I would not trust him with another movie and just make him do his Stargirl series. My rating for this movie is only a 2-star. I'm sorry, fans. It's that bad. Moving on. Replicas, 2019. Directed by Jeffrey Nachmanoff. Produced by Lorenzo Di Bonaventura, Mark Gao, Stephen Hamel, Keanu Reeves, and Luis A. Riefko. Screenplay by Chad St. John. From a story by Stephen Hamel. Starring Keanu Reeves, Alice Eve, Thomas Middleton, and John Ortiz. Production companies are Di Bonaventura Pictures, Riverstone Pictures, Company Films, Ingenious Media, Ramstar Studios. Let me take a breather here. Fundamental Films, Lotus Entertainment, 74 850, and Global Pictures Media, LLC, and Ocean Park Entertainment. Whew. If you need that many different production companies to make a movie, either nobody had any money for the budget of this thing or something's wrong. I don't know. But distributed by Entertainment Studios Motion Pictures, it was released in the U.S. on January 11th, 2019. It has a running time of 1 hour, 47 minutes. It is rated PG-13. And what it's about, William Foster and Ed Whittle, Foster's played by Keanu Reeves, are biomedical research scientists working for the Bionine corporation in Puerto Rico, attempting to transfer the mind of a dead soldier into an android with supreme strength, codename Subject 345. Foster specializes in synthetic biology and mapping of the mind's neural pathways, while Whittle's specialty is reproductive human cloning. And Foster successfully captures the soldier's neural map and transfers it into the android's synthetic brain, but the experiment fails when the soldier recoils in horror at the android body and destroys it, killing himself again. Foster's boss, Jones, warns him that if they can't get Subject 345 to work, the company's shareholders will shut the project down. Foster takes his wife Mona and their 3 children, Sophie, Matt, and Zoe, on a boating trip, but on the way, all but William are killed in the car crash. Determined to resurrect his family, he coked his head into bringing him the bionic equipment necessary to extract his family's neural maps and clone replacement bodies for them. He successfully extracts their neural maps and tells Whittle to dispose of the bodies, but the first major obstacle to his plan presents itself. Only 3 cloning pods are available, which forces him to choose one to sacrifice. He chooses Zoe, the youngest, and erases her memory from the neural maps of the other 3. Whittle starts the 17-day cycle required to create mature replacement clones for the Foster's family, and tells him he only has that long to solve the problem of integrating the neural maps into the clone bodies, or else they'll start to deteriorate by aging at an abnormally fast rate. By integrating the mind into a biological clone, this was phase 2 of the research project, and it hadn't been solved. It was supposed to be solved after the android issue. Foster is forced to keep this secret since he had Whittle and have stolen millions of dollars from bionic equipment and are breaking all kinds of laws to do this, and both ethical, moral, and legal. I just got a message from someone. Let me check it real quick. Okay. And he spends the 17 days removing evidence of Zoe's existence from his home and creating cover stories of illness to explain his family's absence from work, school, and social media contact, which, is kind of going to be weird because you can explain the family's absence from work, school, and social media contact, but you can how are you going to scrub it so that everybody else forgets who Zoe is too? But that's, this is what we get when we get bad writing. Anyway, when Foster notices his wife's central nervous system reacting to his touch, he realizes that Subject 345 failed because the mind expects a connection to a biological body with heartbeat and respiration rather than a synthetic one. He knows now that transfers into the clones will not be a problem, and that the failure of android transfer can be solved by programming a simulated mind-body interface to make the android body appear biological or seem biological to the mind that gets transferred in. He successfully transfers the minds of his loved ones into their clone bodies and then goes back to work to create a synthetic mind-body interface for the android. When the next dead body he receives has suffered too much brain damage to be viable, he resorts to recording his own mind for the android transfer. Meanwhile, Sophie has a nightmare of her mother's death, and Mona catches Foster erasing her memory of the event. He confesses that they died in the car accident and that he resurrected them. The family soon discovers evidence of Zoe's existence that he missed, and then he has to admit to them that he couldn't save Zoe and erase their memories of her. Now, of course, this is destroying their whole family, so everything's turning into a nightmare. Jones then confronts Foster and reveals that he's aware of what they have done. He tells him that the research is not actually intended for medical purposes, but of course, instead is being financed by the government to provide a military weapon, and that Foster's families are going to become loose ends to be eliminated. Foster destroys the mind-body interface, incapacitates Jones, and flees, attempting to escape by boat. Jones's henchman captures his family. He pursues them to Bionine, where it is clear that Whittle has sold them out. Jones then kills Whittle and forces Foster to finish Subject 345. Well, he does, though, by uploading his own mind into Subject 345, who then turns and kills the henchman and mortally wounds Jones. The 2 Fosters, that is the original Foster and then the clone Foster, or the android Foster, make a deal with Jones. He can either live in the clone body and become rich by working with Foster 345, selling clone transfers to wealthy people looking for a second life, or he can be killed. They make a deal. Meanwhile, the original Foster is now able to retire in peace with his family, including a new cloned Zoe, which I don't see how, because I could have sworn he told Widow to destroy all the bodies when they made the clones. But neither here nor there. The story has potential, again, but it fails to deliver on a number of fronts. I think I've already discussed and mentioned a few of the flaws in the script. There's also the combination of both cloning and transfer of mind, memory, soul going on, and neither is really given anything more than a mechanical sense of point of story in the film, as though it's not really a point of issue, but it is, because what good is cloning someone and getting their memories if they don't have a soul? They might have the same memories, but they might not be the same individual. It's kind of interesting that they didn't, they weren't touching that, but they should have, in my opinion. Keanu Reeves, unfortunately, is pretty one note and one dimensional in his performance, but he doesn't have a character to play here either. The character is almost centrally focused and one dimensional, so he plays what he's given. Alice Eve as Mona is okay, but again, there's just so much other stuff going on that doesn't work. The first hour is very dull. By the time they get going somewhere with the story, the family's in danger from the government. Again, not exactly sure why. If you want to convince Foster to help you to do the neural mapping process, you want to keep the family alive, not kill them. And that would make sense to me. But again, who am I? We'll just kill everyone. The movie is just as bad as Wonder Woman 84 for most of the same flaws. Really bad story that doesn't make sense. Just a cheaper budget with lesser special effects. Rating, I gave it 2.5 stars. Mainly because it's on such a much lower budget. I mean, Wonder Woman was a $200 million budget movie, and this is like something like a $18 or $20 million budget movie, and it shows in the lack of quality graphics and stuff. But sounds like a 2 for W is being generous. I gave it a 2.5 for I couldn't quite give it a 3 for the acting. The story is a 1, so I balanced it out to a 2. That's how I came out to a 2. And I gave the special effect, and the special effects kind of gave it more to the solid to the 2. It could have been lesser. Yes, it could have been much lower, John. But again, this is cheaper budget, lesser special effects. It gets a higher rating mostly because I realized that the budget wasn't there. When you think about the budget Wonder Woman had, I have to be even more stringent on Wonder Woman, I guess. Lastly, this week, we have Final Voyage from 2019. Directed by Marcel Barillon, produced by Johannes Barre, Marcel Barillon, Philip Bohar, Massimo Mueller. Written by Marcel Barillon, starring Torben Fulmer, Milan Pisil, and Vincenz Thurpe. Don't know who the production companies were. Couldn't find that information out online or on packaging. Rated TV PG. Running time of 1 hour and 53 minutes. What it's about. 2 men, one an escaped prisoner, the other a soldier who volunteers to capture him, stumble across a wrecked starship in the middle of a desert planet. The soldier, Novak, captures his quarry on the ship, but he too wants to leave this planet and makes a deal with the other man that they can get the ship running before reinforcements arrive. They can flee the planet together. And Adam, the prisoner, seeing no other alternative, agrees. They somehow manage to get the ship running and escape the planet. Somehow Novak knows enough about how to both be a pilot and repair the ship systems as they go, which, to me, he's a grunt, but whatever. While Adam is pretty much worthless at the first of the story and studies the ship's logs while trying to find out where the ship came from and who and what the crew was and stuff like that. While both men want to find someplace new to start a new life. They don't see eye to eye or how or where to go. Adam is certain that the answer is in the crew's logs, while Novak wants to go where this already programmed signal is taking them, even though he doesn't know where it leads. And the logs are warning that this should not be a place that they should be going. But Adam has no proof that other than the crew logs, and even that is dicey because they don't explain why it's not the place to go. So Novak stays on the course that he wants to go because he's the pilot and he can do what he wants. Along the way, they pass by a space station and Adam wants to stop, but Novak keeps going under the assumption that whoever is there, if anyone, since they didn't signal them to stop, wouldn't be of any assistance and might even betray them back to his superiors. The story keeps going, trudging along, really, kind of slowly, as we watch Novak descend into a seeming madness, enthralled by this signal being sent from outer space to these coordinates that they're going to. Adam tries to convince Novak numerous times that this is a bad idea to no avail. They pass through some space wreckage, almost getting themselves destroyed, and then the golden planet appears, and Novak declares it their destination. Adam is horrified because this not only takes them through more space wreckages, which implies the signal has lured many ships to the location and gotten everybody killed, but he has no idea where to go, and this planet is not a life-sustaining planet. It is a gas giant. In the meantime, he has found an alternative route to take, but Novak won't listen. Instead, he forces Adam out of the command module, strips out the data disk with Adam's data coordinates, and stomps on it, smashing it. Ultimately, Novak gets them through the wreckage and to the planet, and again, it's a gas giant. There's no way human life is existing on this world, but Novak drives onward into the atmosphere to whatever part of solid core they're going to land on. More gravity crunching the ship, pressing on the exterior of the ship as they get more and more close to the center of the ship, or center of the planet, rather. But they find solid ground that they do land on. Once they get where they're at and they're stuck where they're at, then Novak suits up in an exosuit and leaves Adam behind on the ship with the signal still in his ear from the suit that's still playing in the coordinates of on the ship. Adam is beside himself. He doesn't know what to do because he supposedly he doesn't know how to fly the ship. He doesn't, he's, what am I going to do? I'm stuck here. So he stays on the ship. As Novak searches aimlessly for whatever he's looking for, whatever's making this signal, Adam is on the ship and he realizes that he can cut the signal. So he turns the signal off. And once the signal turns off, Novak basically goes insane because he can't hear the signal anymore. So, of course, he tears off his helmet from his exosuit and dies of asphyxiation. So now Adam's stuck in stuck inside the ship. What's he going to do? Novak was a pilot, and he just told everybody that he can't get off the planet without him. Well, we know that Adam has to live to tell the tale because somebody has to live to tell this story. So inexplicably, he just punches in the alternative coordinates into the computer, and they cut to him leaving the planet without any further ado and him entering a new entry in the logs saying where he's going. End of story. Okay. First, I gotta be fair. This is a German movie overdubbed in English. So my guess is that there are some elements of the story that are lost in translation and that there might even be some different editorial cut for American audiences. So that does affect how the film is going to be perceived. Second, the screen ratio on my DVD was shit. It was cut so that filled the entirety of the screen so that you lost the sides of the shot, which was very annoying because whenever there were log entries or other forms of subtitles that were part of the story, they were cut off and you had to try and figure out what was being said. And that probably did affect what was going on. I couldn't read it all fast enough and translate it. I know the writer was clearly trying to do George R.R. Martin's Night Flyers. Only he was trying to do it with a 2-person crew instead of a 6 or 8-person crew. And that rather weakened the story because there's just not enough time to get all of the information and not enough characters to present the information in a believable manner. But this is Night Flyers done with 2 people. Um, and I think this was due to the small budget. Pretty sure of that, but it does take you out of the story. I can't really judge the performances. The overdubs in English are horrible acting. It's all very flat, very bland, no emotion to suit what was being represented on the screen. I'm sure if I watched the German performance with just subtitles instead of the English overdub, like I watched just for simplicity's sake, I'd probably get a much different perspective of the performances and their nuances. But very much like the other two films tonight, the story is what is lacking here. With only two characters, there's just so many off elements. Why would a foot soldier also know how to repair and pilot a starship? Several times there's important information pertinent to the story that both characters claim ignorance of understanding of. But the ending is what really kills it for me. They really needed to be a third party in the story, a computer AI, which I was waiting for the computer AI in this movie constantly throughout the movie. I would have had Novak disable it halfway through the story so he can get where he wants. But that would also give Adam the means to salvage the AI, and then the AI pilots the ship out of the gas giant for him. That would have resolved a lot of those issues at the end, and it would have also resolved some other issues between the two men where the AI would say, no, Adam's right, this happened, or that didn't happen, or whatever. That would have potentially changed perspectives for how Novak behaved. But they did what they did. All the same, it is, believe it or not, the most solid story of the three films reviewed on this podcast tonight. Kind of sad that a German film being dubbed into English makes more overall sense than a $200 million mega budget US film. I'll give this one 3 stars out of 5. That's middle of the road. It's an average movie. Stories, like I said, it's got weak, but I don't know how weak it really is because I don't know how much of the weakness is from the translation. If I knew German, I could watch it in German and see how much additional stuff that's being left out in the English dubbed version. Maybe I could say, but I can't. And it's a short episode this week, like I said, folks. This weekend, I have our live draw Saturday and Sunday. I'm not exactly sure what time tomorrow I'll start the live draw. I have a couple of errands I got to run before I can dedicate full time to the sit down and draw. So probably in the afternoon sometime. I'll let you guys know as soon as I know. And then Sunday I'll try and do as early as I can, and so I can spend most of the day drawing. In the meantime, if you have questions for me, Facebook, Lewis.BrightRaven, or Twitter, LewisBrightRaven2, DeviantArt.com/BrightRavens, where you can see my artwork. Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. On YouTube is the channel you're watching, or unless you're watching on Facebook. Gmail, you can reach me at Quoth the Raven, LBR72@gmail.com. Ask me questions. And if you can't reach me at the Gmail address, try LewisBrightRaven@yahoo.com. Mondays, we have our comics news and reviews. Wednesdays, we have What Did You Get This Week, which when I talk about what I bought at the store or what I got in the mail from mail orders. I'm expecting some cool stuff in the mail from Kickstarter stuff next week. So hopefully we'll have a lot of cool stuff to talk about next week. I've also gotten some good the digital stuff. The digital components of some of my orders, so I can talk about some of that and review those as well next week. Thursday will be our roundtable talk discussion, and Friday we'll be back for genre night. And I don't know what exactly our genre is going to be. This week it was kind of science fiction films, but we'll figure out something. Okay? So we'll see you next time. Have a good night, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow.